thank you everybody for joining us today for this very important update. Thank you.
From inside. Go ahead, brother.
All right. First, I would like to start by saying that as of 6 p.m. this evening, everyone housed in the dormitory setting in East Jersey has been issued 2 masks. Now, I want to be clear that the issuance of these masks was not out of any altruism from the administration, nor the implementation of any safety measures from on the state level. We were given these masks out of, actions by members of the inmate population that are considered essential, the kitchen workers who are tasked with feeding everyone inside this institution, and they walked off the job. So by them walking off the job, the administration decided finally to give us masks to people that it's impossible for us in the dormitory setting. It's 80 people housed in this area. So in the average bed distance is maybe 4.5 feet. So since this pandemic began, we have been asking for, especially since the CDC recommendations about everybody wearing facial coverings. So no one in the inmate population goes home at night. So the only way for the COVID virus to get inside the institution is either from guards or civilian staff. So we always said that it was a bad idea to house all of the kitchen workers in one area. So despite that, our protest, they did it anyway. So now the kitchen workers now have to work around guards and civilian personnel. Then they leave their job. Now, they aren't issued any masks. They were not issued any masks. So earlier today, one of the kitchen workers actually fell out and had to be rushed to the hospital. So they evacuated the kitchen, gave the members of the inmate population masks that were there. But when their shift was over, they told them that they couldn't keep the mask, that they had to throw the mask in the trash. So when they did that, all the kitchen workers were walked off the job. And nobody, everybody refused to serve the inmate population to feed. So that would have made the staff have to serve everybody. So you got close to 1,800 people in there. So that was an untenable situation. So they came around and actually issued masks at 6 o'clock. So this is the first time, and we're the only ones that have masks, mind you. The rest of the population, they go without. And the only reason that they gave us masks was because, now those people that are housed on tour are at risk of contracting the virus and then bringing the virus back to the dormitory, to their housing unit. So now you potentially have 80 people that's at risk at any time. So, and that's just one incident. So almost 3 weeks ago now, we had a guard who is responsible for a maintenance crew. So they came here with that supervisor, and then the next day, that supervisor tested positive. So he hasn't been here since. It took them almost 2 weeks before they isolated his inmate detail. So now, mind you, these guys are housed in the dormitory setting. So they could have potentially exposed everybody up here. So those are just two of the things that we're dealing with right now. And, we really, really need help in here. So,
Go ahead.
yes.
Keep talking.
All right. So, we hear, everybody, the governor and everyone else talking about a vulnerable population with the care centers and the veterans homes, etc. But everyone seems to be forgetting about the 19,000 people that's housed in these carceral institutions in New Jersey, in the state of New Jersey. So now they just created, if you show symptoms of if you have flu-like symptoms, they isolate you in a 2-down area. So now they built fake walls with plexiglass. The officers down there wear hazmat suits. So they isolate those guys in that area. If you have risk of being in contact with someone, civilian staff, or another inmate that may or may not be positive, they send you to another area. So they isolate you for 14 days or so from there. If you don't get worse or deteriorate, then they will send you back to the inmate, back into the population. So they did that to 2 inmates up here that were housed here in particular. One is in the hospital. He's in the hospital right now. So on 2 different occasions, this guy went to the medical staff. Like, I don't feel well. My head is light, etc. And they told him, you have an ear infection. You okay to go back to the unit. So he came back to the unit. 2 days later, they had to come up here and get him. We haven't seen him since. Another guy who happened to be on that repair detail that the officer tested positive for COVID, they came up here with masks, hazmat gear, disinfected his area, and we haven't seen him since. So we are exposed, and everyone is talking about, taking care of their vulnerable population, but what about us? We are a part of that vulnerable population. It's not like we can go home every single day and isolate. We can't do that. So we just need, somebody to give our situation voice. And all we asking is, do we not have a right to dignity, equal dignity under the law? You don't have to care about the inmate population, but now you have guards that interact with us on every single day, and then they could potentially take that COVID virus home to their families. So now you get a surge in hospitalization and all that other stuff that comes with being positive for the virus. So it's really a dire situation.
So what is your ask? What do you want? What do you want us to help do?
Well, for one, the first thing is Governor Murphy just signed an executive order, right? And during that time, one of the reporters asked him about who would be affected by the executive order. So his immediate response was, if you have been convicted for a violent crime, you are excluded. And then he went to name 3 particular crimes, as an example. But what I'm saying is, you have people here. Now, when it's politically expedient, they laud, success stories. Guys that have gone through NJ STEP programs, for instance, which I am a graduate of, with honors, I might add. But because I have been convicted for a violent crime, I'm automatically excluded from that interested population. So I'm just one person. Now here it is. I haven't had a charge in 20 years. 20 years. I would be the example of what success looks like. Of a person who's participating in his own rehabilitation, that's doing everything that's being asked of them, programming. I'm doing everything. But because I'm convicted of a violent crime, I'm automatically excluded from participating in, those guys, that population that's being released based on his executive order. Like, I don't understand that. I don't understand that.
How much time have you served?
I've served, this year will be 30 years. 30 years. So, and they have a wealth of data, statistical data, that says, if a person is incarcerated, as his level of education increases, his risk for recidivism is reduced. So almost to the point where, particularly with the ND STEP program, they have a recidivism rate of 1%. Less than 1%. And you're telling me that simply because I cannot mitigate the circumstances around my crime, no matter what I do, that will always remain the same. So because I'm convicted for a violent offense, I can't even be considered.
Do you think that COVID now becomes a death sentence, a potential death sentence towards you?
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
What can we do to help?
You tell me. Go ahead.
What can we do right now to keep COVID from being a death sentence to you?
Well, we need for someone to explain to the governor that he has
60 seconds remaining.
He has a wealth of statistical data that shows that even though there are some, now I think that it should be on a case-by-case basis. That may be too cumbersome. But he can actually consider, like, okay, if you receive this amount of a level of education, whether it's a violent crime or
you have 30 seconds remaining,
we will consider you. So you may be able to petition the courts to gain access to programs and rehabilitation or reentry services that I am actually excluded from right now.
Okay. Thank you for sharing, brother. And we will definitely push this message, and we will get this message out to the right people in our call of action. They heard live from you, and they just hung up. You heard directly from a brother that is currently incarcerated in the carceral state. This is not us just making this up. They're telling you exactly what's happening on the ground. And any questions or anything that you need to know, you can direct them to our group. We have those that are a part of our group that are directly in contact with them every day. It's even worse for the juveniles. They can't even call their parents. Their parents can't go see them. They can't do what needs to be done. And most of the juveniles that I'm talking about are not even adjudicated guilty yet. And yet they sit. And there's nobody speaking with them, let alone carrying their messages. And we have to begin to say that, why is this criminal justice process turning into a death sentence? And we have to do things to stop this. We can't continue to have this going on. And I'm just, to hear these stories and just coming from there, and just a matter of months to see how this turned on its head. That could have been me. And who would have spoke for me? Who'd have spoke with me? who would have gave me an opportunity to share exactly what's happening real time right now. And I think this is the first time we're probably hearing directly from those that are directly impacted with this COVID-19. They're dying in there, and nobody cares that can do something, but we care. That's why we're here. That's why we're here to share. We're here to make sure that we educate, we inform, we enlighten all those that can move. We're not looking for sympathy, we're looking for empathy. And it is my hope that in sharing what we're going through and what's happening with us, that this is a call to action. These are not people who were sentenced to death. The death penalty was abolished in New Jersey. And for us to sit by idly, we must get engaged, because this could happen to any one of us, any one of our families. And I know it's sweeping across the state. There's 19,000 families that are directly impacted by this. And we need to do something.